Good afternoon. I'm Chief James Beere of the Oakland Police Department. Before we begin today, I want to acknowledge the profound tragedy that struck our city on Saturday night in East Oakland. 3 people lost their lives and 3 others were seriously injured, as well as others sustaining injuries themselves. However, it's a ripple effect on our community, deeply impacting family, loved ones, residents, and friends who live and work in the neighborhood. But truly, throughout the whole entire city of Oakland, we're mourning. Our thoughts remain with everybody that's been affected by this heartbreaking event. The incident occurred shortly before 11:15 p.m. on Saturday night at 85th and International. Preliminary investigations showed the driver was driving in excess of 50 miles an hour. As he approached the intersection, he struck multiple vehicles and tried to make a delayed turn, causing the vehicle to drive up under the sidewalk and strike several pedestrians. Tragically, 3 of those pedestrians died on scene. 3 others were transported to the hospital and were listed in critical condition. 1 victim remains in critical condition, 1 is currently in stable condition, and 1 has since been released. The driver, a 17-year-old juvenile, was transported also to a local hospital and treated, and later arrested in connection with this incident. Investigators are seeking a search warrant to obtain blood for toxicology results to dispel or confirm whether drugs or alcohol played a factor in this incident. This remains an active and ongoing investigation. Now, I truly want to thank the members of the community that stepped up to assist OPD. They helped detain the suspect and prevent him from fleeing, and I greatly appreciate your efforts. Again, just like I say every time at these news conferences, our commitment and coordination, collaboration with the community is what gets us through difficult times like this. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Barbara Lee.
Thank you very much. First, let me just say very clearly that our city, Oakland, we're mourning the lives lost on Saturday in Saturday night's tragic crash at International Boulevard and 85th Avenue in East Oakland. And our hearts are with the victims, their families, their loved ones, and all of those impacted. And we're also keeping those who were injured in our thoughts and prayers for their speedy and full recovery. Let me take a moment to thank the Oakland Police Department, Oakland Fire Department, paramedics, and all of our first responders who responded quickly to the devastating scene. But I also want to thank members of the community for their very quick action Saturday evening to ensure the driver did not leave the scene before officers arrived. And I have to say that the courage displayed by those on scene shows a growing trust between our neighborhoods, City Hall, and the Oakland Police Department. And we're not operating in isolation, but working as true partners to protect our community. And again, I want to thank members of the community who did their job, but they did it with dignity, with respect, and with a concern that people would not leave that scene until the accountability was put into place for the person who committed this devastating accident. This remains an investigation which is active and ongoing, but as a city, we're committed to working with OPD to ensure accountability and to support those impacted by this tragedy. I'd like to now turn this over to the Department of Violence Prevention, our chief, Dr. Holly Joshi. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Holly Joshi, Department of Violence Prevention. I'd like to echo the words of my colleagues around the seriousness of this incident, the impacts to our community at large, and the city's deep commitment to healing and justice. The Department of Violence Prevention represents the city's services arm of public safety. We exist to interrupt cycles of violence and provide community members and families impacted by violence with the resources and supports they deserve. My team is made up of committed individuals from community who act as credible messengers to ensure that one act of violence does not turn into many. Regarding this incident, I've deployed the violence interrupters to prevent retaliatory violence and make connections between the impacted individuals and support services. We typically provide supports, including obtaining victim of crime dollars, funeral and memorial arrangements, and therapeutic supports for those impacted. Thank you to the mayor and administration for their ongoing investments in a comprehensive approach to public safety. And with that, I will turn it over to Assistant City Manager Michelle Phillips.
Good afternoon. Assistant City Administrator Michelle Phillips. I just want to say, during these times, we want to uplift and let our community members and our employees know that city administration supports them. I also want to recognize the quick responses by our community members during that incident, as well as our steadfast leadership and professionalism demonstrated throughout this open and ongoing investigation. As we move forward, we remain committed as a city to a holistic approach to public safety and a comprehensive public safety ecosystem, one that includes strong enforcement, violence prevention efforts, community resources, and meaningful partnerships. Public safety is not achieved by a single strategy. It requires collaboration, compassion, accountability, and continued investments in our communities. Together, we will keep working for a safer Oakland and support those affected by this unfortunate incident. At this time, I will give it back to Interim Chief Beere for any questions.
Henry?
Going to motive, there's things swirling out there, such as intentional gas versus brake pedal confusion after the initial TC into a parked car. Can we go into that?
So it's still an ongoing investigation. Those are all things that our investigators are going to look at. I do, again, want to thank some of the community members that stepped up and came and gave us statements as to what occurred right before the suspect driver went up on the sidewalk. All of those are going to be assessed. It could be, we're going to learn through that, through many other forms of investigation and additional questions that have to be asked. But we're not ruling out that it was intentional, but at this point, it looks like it might have been a result of an auto accident.
Might have been a result of what? I'm sorry.
An auto accident.
Jody?
Chief, the juvenile was arrested and detained by people there. Were there other people in the car, and what charges would they potentially face?
So currently it appears through the initial preliminary investigation that he was the sole occupant of the vehicle, so he'll be the only one facing charges.
Mayor?
Chief, neighbors and people who were there that night say that that individual apparently lived around the corner. Do you know this individual? Is he known to you? Does he have a record? And did he express any remorse or say anything at all after being arrested?
So I can tell you that the suspect that was arrested is an Oakland resident. I cannot confirm whether or not he lives around the corner. There's going to be additional interviews that'll have to take place with him. So for that, I can't really go into the other part of your question. I apologize.
Dan?
Can you go over again the various things you're looking for in terms of cause? Intentional vehicle malfunction. You had said traffic accident. Is that vehicle malfunction, or is that a different category? Can you talk about what you're looking at?
So again, the investigation's in its infancy, but I mean, it has been reported, and it's pretty consistent that he had struck other vehicles prior to coming up to that intersection. Again, I'm not a traffic investigator, but it appears that that may have been through operator error. Speed is a factor. We do know that is one of the contributing issues that's at play here, and honestly, that's one of the things that concern all of us that live here in Oakland. I live in East Oakland. I'm concerned about some of the reckless driving that occurs there too. Unfortunately, speed is an issue that we struggle with here in Oakland.
Henry?
Chief, I know that you guys are praising the witnesses, the civilians who came forward to detain the individual. There's some raw video out there suggesting that he may have been chased, punched, attacked. Any concern about that aspect?
Obviously, we're going to look at everything, but from the information we received now is that the individual suspect exited the vehicle and tried to flee the scene and actually was running down International Boulevard. With regards to the fact that he was detained, you know, they will look at video and they'll make any additional assessment, again, with regards to that claim.
Jody, and then Dan, and then one more after that.
Did the suspect have a driver's license, and whose car was he in? Was he in a parent's car? Was he in his own car? Or?
Again, all that's going to be part of the investigation, and currently it's still open, so I can't comment on the specifics of the vehicle and the association to the suspect that's been arrested to the registered owner of the car.
What about was he licensed?
Again, I believe he's licensed, but I can't get into the details of the background. I can tell you that the vehicle was not stolen.
Dan?
Can you walk us through before we get the people, the chain of events in terms of what he did before that? And do you believe that was due to speeding, or that's still under?
So I can walk through the events leading up to. I can't give a determination because that's going to be up to the traffic investigator. But I can tell you that he was observed driving northbound 85th Avenue at an extremely high rate of speed, in excess of 50 miles an hour. So the investigators are going to analyze all the evidence that was recovered on scene to include skid marks, damage, other vehicles that were impacted, and they'll be able to take all of that data and come up with an exact speed. But for right now, the initial information I've been briefed is that it's definitely in excess of 50 miles an hour on a city street in a residential area approaching International Boulevard. At one point, he struck some parked vehicles, at which point it looks like the vehicle then deviates to a delayed turn and accelerates up onto the sidewalk.
Here and then here, and then we're done.
Quick question. Can you talk about the state of his vehicle? Was it totaled? Will investigators be looking through like the black box? Is there anything there?
So the vehicle did remain on the scene. They are going to do their due diligence with regards to the fall up to black box. There is significant damage to the vehicle, actually significant damage to multiple vehicles, to include the last vehicle he struck before going up onto the sidewalk. All of that will play a factor. It will actually help towards us determining, you know, really what happened here.
Is arraignment
Right here.
tomorrow?
This is the second time in a month that a speeding driver apparently got onto the sidewalk, plowed into a crowd of people. What would you say to the city and viewers just knowing that this happened again?
Yeah, so each investigation, each incident is going to be investigated, deemed on the merits of their own. I can tell you they are separate incidents, not related. The suspect in the first case, we have identified them and obtained a search or an arrest warrant for their arrest. We're working with federal authorities as well as outside law enforcement agencies to take them into custody. We have narrowed down their location, so an arrest is imminent. I would advise them to turn themselves in. On this case, again, this is early stages of the investigation. To just point out some of the other questions that were here earlier, we're too early to tell intentionality or if it was driver error, but I can tell you it was definitely reckless driving and completely not acceptable on how they were driving up 85th Avenue prior to the collision.